Hey folks, welcome to the Leeds View for our second podcast of the week. We do these twice a week on a Tuesday and a Thursday, as well as daily Leeds United news. You can catch us on all the audio platforms. If you want to give us a channel rating and a comment on those, we're also on YouTube. We can give us a subscribe and a like, and we are part of the Sports Social Network. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do so by any of the affiliate links down below. We've got an 8% off code with OK Jersey for all the World Cup shirts coming into a World Cup summer, as well as a link with Fanatics for the discount on the Leeds United shirts, which are on more than half price sale at this point. That's the logistical stuff out of the way. I'm going to apologize in advance. I've got a cold. I may shut up for a while, which some people may actually like. But I will introduce the lads who will do the bulk of the talking tonight. Paul Brooker and Andrea Russo joined us tonight. Paul, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. I'm the same as you, mate. I'm ill as well. It's I'm feeling good. My actual training that I'm doing, going to the gym, has been phenomenally good over the past week. I've really started to step it up a little bit, which is nice. So just anybody that is 40 and over, health is wealth. Just make sure you take care of yourself. That's the important thing to do. The football's been interesting this week, hasn't it, boys? It's been very interesting this week. We've all been enjoying it. So yeah, it feels weird to be the grown-up of the group for a change, which is very, very, very strange. I know there's a long way to go yet, but it feels weird to be like the grown-up in this situation at the moment.
You do have that feeling. I think me and Jerry were talking about it last Friday night, where you kind of think to yourself, it's pretty calm around the place. When's it going to explode? It's coming. This is the calm before the storm. This is the volcano taking the deep breath in before it absolutely blows its top. So hopefully you're right. Hopefully the calm and steady approach is the right way. This time, 22-23 season, we were sacking our first manager, our second manager, or getting ready to sack our second manager, and Forest and Spurs are entering that. We are going to talk about the chaos at the bottom end of the Premier League as well. But first things first, before I collapse. Andrea, how are you doing, mate? And thanks for joining us today.
No, it's a pleasure, man. As always. I'm fine, ups and downs, but I would say fine. I was laughing because we make a fun trio tonight, because one has a cold, the other one is coughing, and I look pale as a ghost because I don't have the proper lighting. So very good trio. And the people that will listen, the audio listeners, they will hear you two with the cold and me talking with the Italian accent. So a good one. But yeah, overall good, and I like what Paul said, about being the grown-ups, because it doesn't feel real, when Leeds United is the grown-up down there at the lower part of the table, honestly, because usually we are the ones, especially under the previous ownership, in this time of the season, when we went down, but also even in the past, and the even previous Italian owner, at top Arsenal and Road, we were the one bringing the madness to the table, but looks like that people are doing a Leeds now, and we are not the ones doing a Leeds like in the past, So yeah, good to see, and especially like Paul said, a golden point at the bridge. So far so good after that win against Forest, especially.
Yeah, and we now know that it wasn't a handball because, and there's been comments on this I want to address. Some people have said, Jared, they're not the rules, they're the laws of the game. I put a clip up on the screen that was taken directly from it where it said rule, and then there was the actual rule. So I don't know whether there's rules within the laws, but that's the clip. It wasn't something I typed up myself, but the letter of the law stated that unless you score directly after the ball hits him accidentally, then it's not you can't rule the goal out. When he wasn't scored directly afterwards, there was two more touches, one from a Chelsea player and one from a Leeds player before Okafor tapped it in. So the goal was good, but yesterday, Paul, it all kicked off just a little bit down the bottom end. Ironically, not in the bottom three. Three sides in the bottom are kind of like, yeah, we're fine. And then there's just two floating around above it, just below us, who lost their minds over the last couple of days. So Nottingham Forest drew with Wolves last night after absolutely battering them. And then ironically, Wolves probably had the best two chances of the game. And then Spurs continued to capitulate and drop like a rock. And of the teams in the bottom half of the table, West Ham, Nottingham Forest and Leeds actually had the best run of the last 5 games coming into this. Spurs have one of the absolute worst runs. And the Spurs board decided to pull the plug on Thomas Frank. They're now looking for a manager. Haven't got one of each. The names that have been thrown around are incredible because they're all big names. And we did the same when we sacked Jesse, it was Iriola, it was Slot, it was Gallardo who were coming to Leeds, and then you ended up with Javi Grazia. No disrespect to Javi, I like Javi. But any manager at that point said the same thing. I'm not taking a job this close to the end of the season in that position without a preseason, without time to actually embed my ideas, right? So you're going to get random manager who's not working at the moment. And then Forest draw last night. Sean Dyche seems pretty calm about things and says that, he's very honest relationship with the owner. Marinakis looks fuming. There's reports that came out that Marinakis locked them all in the dressing room and went ballistic.
Yep.
And only Yates and Gibbs White were allowed out of the dressing room to do media work. And then the news comes out this morning, they've sacked him. And they've gone to Pereira, who he knows from his time at Olympiacos, so he should know what Marinakis is like going in there, And he did bring Wolves on a very strong run towards the back end of last season that got them out of trouble. So obviously trying to replicate that. But you look at the squad that Forest have, and they've just bought Sean Dyche, a 6'7" striker, to play his style of football. No, sacked him. So it's chaos down there at the moment.
It is. It is really, really strange. You've obviously got two sides in Tottenham and Forest that are panicking. There is, looking at it, there's no way that they should be where they are. They should be just based off of the players, the quality of players that they have in their side. They should be further up the league, both of those teams, than what they are. Now, you can have the players in your side, but that doesn't mean that you have a team. And that's what the difference is. I mean, I'll put West Ham in this one just based it off of their recent results. West Ham have looked more like a team recently. We've looked like a team consistently since Manchester City, since that little turnaround. We've got an identity. West Ham have got an identity as well. You and I were both at Elland Road watching the Forest game, Jer, and I struggled to work out what the identity of Forest was. I look at Tottenham. I can't work out what their identity is either. There's no kind of cohesion with them. There's no with both of those teams, and they are in real trouble. I feel sorry for Dyche because he got manager of the month in January, didn't he? I think.
Yeah.
And here we are halfway through February, and not even halfway through February. We're a third of the way through February, and he's losing his job, which is. It absolutely beggars. Yeah, look, Wolves are going to do that this for the remainder of the season. They're going to play against some sides and they're going to get silly results that are just going to come out. I mean, 35 opportunities Forest had last night, which is nuts. That's the second highest of any team in Premier League history.
Yeah.
It's
pressure is off Wolves though because they're done.
Yeah, they don't.
They can play with freedom now.
Yeah, they can absolutely play with freedom. We were talking in our X group, hoping that we were going to have a Gomez to Gomez goal last night, but that never materialised, did it? But
I got very excited, last night because I couldn't see the Wolves game. I was trying to find somewhere to watch. That's the game I wanted to watch. And next, Andrea put into the group Bueno, and I went, I can't believe Bueno has scored. And then I looked and was like, it's 0-0. Why is he doing it? I got really excited for like 5 minutes, and then I was like,
absolutely the same.
Gomez, Bueno. Then just
Bueno,
I thought Bueno scored, and I said no Bueno.
No Bueno, yeah.
No good.
This is doing my head in here. This is ridiculous. But I mean, you look at everything that's kind of gone on, and we've had this period where we would always say as Leeds United fans, where we never ever get the rub of the green. We never ever get like the football god smiling down on us. That effort by Palmer in the 94th minute had an XG of 0.91. He should have been putting that in the goal. There's no two ways about it. He should have been putting that in the goal. That's as close as you can get to nearly a guaranteed finish.
James Justin's reaction is fantastic.
It's because he's already looking at the halfway line because he's
both hands on his head, mouth open like this. They're going.
Yeah, and Dallo too.
Yeah, Ampadu
well, yeah.
Ampadu said the same. Ampadu said the same. He said, "I'll be honest with you, I was looking for." I don't know if anybody's listened to Ampadu's interview after the game. Really, really like what he's an absolute captain. He's just brilliant. Yeah. Not letting anybody get too carried away. And it was interesting with Metcha when they went to Metcha and then cut to the crowd. And they cut to the crowd right at the point where the crowd go, shoot the Chelsea scum, at the Leeds United fans with singing that song, which was just chef's kiss. It was just brilliant. But That's what I mean. We can enjoy these moments because we're kind of being the sensible ones in the group of people. And like Graham Smith said last night, it's not a relegation battle, it's a relegation Royal Rumble. There's a lot of teams that are in it. And I do think somebody is going to go down this season with a higher amount of points than what you actually think. We only need to get one more point to match what we did in the relegation season.
Yeah.
And there's still 36 points up for grabs. I would like us, if I was being 100% honest, I would like us to aim for 50 just to be safe. I think that we might get 45 to 50 just given on the way certain things are. But wowzers, it's just mental down at the bottom. And I mean, can we throw Leicester into this? I know this is Premier League chat, but for Jesus, you go 3-0 up at half-time and then lose 4-3 to Southampton is just... Couldn't happen to enough.
Palace 2-0 up against up against Burnley and lose 3-2.
Forgot.
3 goals in 7 minutes.
Strand Larson coming in with his nice little goals. That ball from Wharton, though, to him for his first goal was tasty. But just against Burnley, how do you go 2-0 up and then lose 3-2? But not only that, go 2-0 up in the first half and walk in at half time, losing 3-2 makes no sense. Glasner could be in
10 minutes away from half time, and then all of a sudden you're going and losing at half time.
They are not used to the pressure of being in that situation for me. The players which John mentioned, Strand Larsen, of course, was in a team that was basically already relegated at the start. But look at them, of course, now they had the problem with Mateta, for example, Palace, Wharton. We can talk about Tottenham, the players that they have, Romero, Richarlison, this player Forest too. They just at the start of the season they signed Bakva, Douglas Luiz, Zinchenko. Now 2 of them are not there anymore, but Olaina, Anderson, all these players basically, but they are not used to be there, especially because we're talking about 3 teams down there: Crystal Palace, Tottenham, and Forest, who are still playing and will play in the knockout stages in European competitions. So they'll have, and they have one eye on staying up in this case, because I remember I was talking about this the other day on Tottenham specifically, and I said Tottenham have the players to get out of this situation, but I have changed my mind, and be honestly, because the fact that they won the Europa League last season has overshadowed the fact that they have finished just at the bottom team above the relegation places, and last season practically was too easy to not get relegated because the 3 teams that were up, then went down eventually. Ipswich, Southampton, and Leicester, they were terrible basically all season, so it was too easy. But they are not used to that, to be under the pressure, especially because Tottenham now, the next game they have in the league with the new manager is Arsenal. So all of them, I'm looking at our fixtures, Villa, Manchester City, but after that I think we have the easiest run. Of course, they are tough. These are tough teams, but West Ham, Crystal Palace, Tottenham, they all have tough. Among them, a lot of these teams have to face Arsenal, Manchester United in a very consecutive games. So they are not used to that. The surprise for me also is Brighton. Honestly, I didn't expect Brighton to be so bad this season, but probably they had adjusted. In the end, probably people expected Brentford to be in the place of Brighton and Brighton to be in the place of Brentford, looking at the table.
100%.
With the appointment of Keith Andrews. But Keith Andrews, it worked out to be a great appointment for them because he has continued the style of football, their project pretty well. Everton too, they're having a great season. They have been struggling during the last 4 seasons. Bournemouth ups and downs, but in the end, these teams were able to steer the ship on the right path, on the right trajectory. Other teams like Brighton, they have a mix of scouted players, veterans that have been there for ages. So it's all open, and I agree with Paul. Honestly, West Ham so far, apart from us, especially looking at the last 5 on the table here in the graphic, they are the team that have looked the more compact and solid, because if Benjamin Šeško doesn't score in the 96th minute, they have 4 wins in the last 5. So far, West Ham have a chance, honestly. I have a better chance right now then Forest, Tottenham, and especially Palace. I think Brighton will be all right eventually. The trouble ones for me are Tottenham and Forest, because Palace in the end, I think they will find their way out of this.
I think for me the interesting thing to keep an eye on, because I agree, I think West Ham's form right now is so good. They've only lost one game. They picked up 10 points in the last 5 games. I think they'll move up the table pretty comfortably over the next couple of weeks. But there are others down there. But the interesting point for me is going to be, how do these players that have come into the country from France and Italy and Germany and other leagues around the world going to handle being booed off the park at halftime and full time in every single game? Because the atmosphere at the Amex, which is normally very, very supportive of Brighton, has been toxic in the last couple of weeks. They've been booed off at halftime, booed off at full time. Spurs are boycotts and boom during the matches even, and just, it was described against Manchester City in the first half as being eerily quiet around the stadium. And it's interesting to see how those players will handle that. Paul, I want to talk about Spurs for a minute. Because again, if you look at the table on screen, for those listening on the audio, I'll talk you through it. If you look at the form guide in the last 5 weeks, Spurs, Wolves, Brighton have the worst form right now. None of them have got a win in their last 5 games. And Spurs have lost 3, drawn 2, picked up 2 points in their last 5. West Ham has picked up 10. Forest is crazy because they just sacked the manager who's only lost 1 game in his last 5, which you would imagine is turnaround form, and he's still picking up points. Spurs 2 points, and then Brighton 2 points as well in the last 5. So they do have tough games coming up again, those sides. The interesting thing about Tottenham is, and it'll be around everyone's social media, Ange Postecoglou was on the Overlap talking about Spurs, and it's really interesting. And I also listened to Kieran Maguire talking about what happens if they do go down. And it's interesting that's the narrative that's being put out there, because that will put pressure on it. We've been through this. We booed our players off at full time the year we went down. They were booed in nearly every single game. It's a very different vibe around the place now because the effort has been seen. But Ange Postecoglou, and to Andrea's point about identity, Ange Postecoglou said, what are Spurs trying to be? Because when he went there, it was about winning a trophy and being less Spursy. He wins the trophy, he gets fired. Jose Mourinho gets him to a League Cup final, gets fired the week before the Cup final. So what are you actually trying to do? Do you want to win trophies or what do you want? And then he said, but inside the club, he becomes very aware that being in the Champions League, that top 4 is vitally important. But he said when Harry left, and Joe Blackburn, to his credit, said this a few weeks ago, once you took the likes of Bale, Harry Kane, Son out of the team, Modric when he was there out of the side, what's left is a very average looking squad. And he said after finishing 5th in the league, he wanted Semenyo and Guehi, and he wanted Neto, and he ended up getting Dom Solanke and 3 teenagers. Now, he said those 3 teenagers will all end up being fantastic players for Spurs, but they weren't the players that were going to get them from 5th to 2nd, and that was the issue. And then they fell away, and the goal became try and win a trophy, because he knew he was done, he said. But try and win a trophy and be less Spursy, try and win something. And then they sack him for winning something and qualifying for Champions League. So ultimately, the position of the league didn't matter. And he said they were never in a relegation dogfight because they were 13 points ahead of it. So it never really was on paper a scrap, so they could do that. And then Kieran Maguire talks about them as well. And he said, if they go down, they lose initially £150 million. But they'll likely lose money on their kit deals as well with Nike, because they're looking for European football and they have clauses in the contracts for that. The players' wages are unlikely to have relegation clauses and deductions in it because, just not expecting to be down there. Their match day revenue, which they pride them on, £4 million per home game, that's going to drop because ticket prices are going to have to change in pricing structure there as well.
Yeah.
And they could be in, it's a fire sale. And they might lose those young players that they've brought in to be the future of the club and the next big stars. So when you look at all of that and you put all that together, there's a huge amount of pressure on the shoulders of that young team that are there. You have an ownership who have seen Danny Levy leave, and now they're under pressure, and then they've no manager. And they think they're going to attract these big name managers from around world football because they're probably still playing European football. But really, would anybody want to go and take over that job with 12 games to go, given where they are, given the form, given the vibe around the place? Who backs themselves to take that kind of a job? Because we saw that with Slot, Areola, Gallardo all being linked with Leeds, and then we ended up with Javi. So, they're in a right. There's a lot more of a mess around Spurs right now than there is probably anybody else. Like Forest are volatile. That's just Maranacas. But outside of that, they should have enough. But Spurs, to me, I would be concerned if I was them.
Yeah, it's a really weird situation. They've got an absolutely stunning stadium. There's a lot of money on that. They've got, technically they've got everything going for them. But as you say, what manager is going to want to take the risk when you look at in terms of their form? They've lost 3, drawn 2 in the last 5. Exactly the same as Brighton as well. But they've lost 3, drawn 2 in the last 5, particularly against teams that they shouldn't be losing or drawing to. But not only that as well, it's the pressure that these young players are going to have to try and shoulder. And some of them, I mean, we know Romero just hasn't got the mental fortitude to do it because he just keeps getting sent off. You look at some of the other players, I don't think that they quite understand what's needed of them or what they need to do to be able to step up to the plate. And you're asking for players like Harry Gray, who is getting loads and loads of games, and it's relative because he's one of ours. But you're asking a player like Harry Gray to deal with that kind of pressure or to lead the team in such a way. Archie, sorry, not Harry, Archie. Apologies. Thank you. You're asking Archie to sort of deal with that and to suddenly become a senior player for a team that's in the knockout stages of a European Cup, as well as the Premier League. And is he ready for that? Is that fair for that to be on him? I'm not saying he's not capable. We know he's capable, but is it fair that pressure is going to be felt by all of these players? I mean, do you put your faith in Udogie to be able to sort you out? It's that you look at and this is what I mean when I say about cohesion in a team. You look at players within a team and you think which ones are going to be capable of standing up and sort of dragging everybody forward to a common goal. I mean, I look at our team and straight away I can tell you Ampadu, straight away I can tell you Rodon, straight away I can tell you DCL, the spine of the team that would quite happily take that on. And this isn't me going, we're better than Spurs or anything to this, that, and the other. What I'm saying is that it's the ethos. The character. That's the word I was looking for. The character of the team and what they're also able to do. Because there's that saying, and I've said it a couple of times now, I'm going to say it on here. You said it as well, Jer. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work. And what we've gotten so far this season is there's times where our talent hasn't been there enough, but our hard work has got us through it. And I don't think some teams that are in and around us have that mentality, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it's been there for years. My father used to say it when I was a kid playing football. If you give me 11 players who would run through a brick wall over 11 technically brilliant footballers, because more often than not, the lads that will run through a brick wall will get you results. Where if it's not going the way of the technical footballers, they might down tools, and maybe you're seeing a bit of that. Maybe you're seeing a bit of the pressure. Forest, Andrea is an interesting one. As we said, they've only lost 1 game in the last 5. Deutsch has been sacked. Fans that I've listened to, most of them, not happy at all with the style of football, but they have committed to bringing in a player for him, and now they're going to move away from that. Ironically, it didn't particularly work well when he started him yesterday and took him off for Jesus. But in your mind, given what happened in the dressing room yesterday, rumoured what happened in the dressing room yesterday with Forest, that's not an ideal situation for them going into the next set of games either.
Absolutely. And I think the situation is connected with the one at Spurs, absolutely, because I think all this mayhem down there at the lower part of the table started on June the 6th of last year when Postecoglou was sacked by Spurs. Then on September the 9th, Nuno was sacked by Forest. So yeah, everything was connected, because if at Postecoglou not been sacked by Spurs and Marinakis, we knew, especially during the summer, there were already the rumors of it will try to bring Postecoglou to Forest. I think it all goes down to the impatience of Marinakis after the start of the season at Forest with Nuno and the difficult relationship they had. And he sacked him, and that's the start of a Forest problem for me, absolutely, because the situations are parallel, because Spurs didn't have a great campaign last season, of course, in the league, but like you just said, they were never threatened by relegation because the bottom 3 were terrible last season. Fortunately, it's not the case this season, and everybody can enjoy this Royal Rumble because it's great for neutrals, to see who is going to go down this season. But eventually, Postecoglou won a trophy for Spurs after the first trophy after 2008 with the League Cup. Nuno qualified Forest for the Conference League, then they got to the Europa League because of the case with Palace, with John Textor. But there were already rumors because they were in the UCL places for the majority of last season, and Marinakis wasn't happy for on the fact that they dropped places and positions toward the end
He
of the season.
walked onto the pitch, didn't he? And he confronted Nuno. Like that for me is possibly the beginning of what's happened this season.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I agree with you, Ger. I agree absolutely. And honestly, the situation behind the scenes when there's no clarity there, it translates into the pitch, into the squad, because players wonder what's going on. And these players are not players, seasoned professionals who are used to being relegation. But like I said before, we're talking about upcoming players, promising players in the last couple of seasons, like Hutchinson, McAtee, Anderson, players who had a good season last year, like Nico Williams, Olaina. But like the point to resonate the point that Paul made about Spurs, who are the leaders that know what it takes to get out of this situation now at Forest? Of course, there's aggressive players that can make their presence felt to opponents on the pitch, like Milenkovic, for example. But Milenkovic is the exact same type of player as Christian Romero is at Spurs. So they are aggressive players. They can get sent off. There are technical leaders like at Spurs, for example, Palinha, Xavi Simons, very good, reliable defender like Van de Ven. But the only one is Romero, who is the one that can rally his teammates. Again, at Forest, who is the other player that can rally his teammates around him, lead them?
And he's missed the next 3 games now as well. He's going to miss for them. So he's going to be out until Liverpool.
Somebody's just done at Tottenham's just done their ACL as well. There's another one that's just done their ACL.
I'll have a look it up.
There's another.
Continue. I'll have a little look.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my question is, at Forest and Tottenham, who is their Ethan Ampadu, for example? I don't think they have one leader on the pitch, and that's the problem with them. But again, to finish off with Forest, Marinakis, I think, is the main problem there. Is at the same time their fortune and their problem, because of the way he runs the club. Of course, nobody can deny that he got because people tend to forget how Forest was before they got promoted. They were changing managers a lot. They were spending a lot of money in the championship of players and assembling teams that didn't work. Even in 2016, for example, around that era, they had good teams. Bojan Jokic, Lichai, these kind of players, Cohen, Majewski, that era, in the championship. They were making good signings. I remember when they had that Sambalonga, then we signed Blackstock, I think, from them, or was after that. Can't remember so many players in that era, But they had good teams in the championship, but they were never making the next step, even when they had, before Marinakis, when they had Emerson, that period, But right now they are back to that period, to how the club was run there, because before Steve Cooper took them from relegation zone, above the relegation zone that season in the championship, to the playoffs, and then winning that final against how it was that, but I cannot remember against that opponent. Yeah, but by the way, they got promoted. Huddersfield, when they got promoted, they decided to spend a lot of money, and it worked when they stayed up. Last season, they made that European push with Nuno and qualified for Europe. But this season, by sacking Nuno and the way the things are run behind the scenes, they are back to the past for me. And that's the problem, because you see many similarities between how the things are run not now in the Premier League to how things were done when they were in the Championship. The problem is that right now they have 2 seasoned professionals behind the scene, like Edu Gaspar, who used to be at Arsenal, and Lina Suluku, who used to be at AS Roma, and before that, Olympiacos, like the right-hand woman in this case, not man, of Marinakis. So there's a lot of trouble, honestly, because they are not used to that. Their targets, same as Palace was, again, push for European places. And now the mental switch is not automatic, and you can be like Fiorentina, River Plate, Sevilla, Atletico Madrid. All these clubs were relegated in the past, so it can happen to Forest and Tottenham especially. You're not immune to relegation if you don't make the good decisions. And even Levy stepping out, Spurs, I think, played a part too, because an era ended, and now even Paratici left. So many chaos going on behind the scenes, at these clubs.
Yeah, it's be careful what you wish for. The devil you know is sometimes better than the devil you don't know. And Paul, it's interesting though. Again, we'll talk about Leeds in a few minutes. But I think this is worth talking about because it does impact us at some point.
Yeah.
But I've yet to see a volatile ownership be successful in the Premier League. But we've seen them get to the Premier League. So I mean, not necessarily always sacking managers, but just inexperienced ownerships like you'd Venky's at Blackburn. You've had the whole city ownership who tried to change the name of the club. You had Cardiff who tried to change the colours of the club. You had Cellino at Leeds. You had Chancery at Sheffield Wednesday. You've had Watford's owners, the Polo family, who change managers every 6 days. And they've Nottingham Forest doing the exact same thing. And it's, I've yet to see it ever work. I mean, Watford did get into the Premier League, but then ultimately got relegated and keep sacking managers and started to rehire the same managers again. And then they started to quit.
Yep.
So, it doesn't really work over time. Like, I know clubs, and that saying of you're too big to go down, the second you hear yourself saying that, get worried, because you are. You can go down. But the volatility that Forest have and chopping and changing isn't going to help that dressing room, because whoever comes in now is going to look at it and go, well, you're not here for the long term. So, and I probably got a relegation release clause, and Gibbs White had all the issues last summer with Marinakos, and that famous picture of him standing there going, we always win. And there's a meme of him with a gun behind his back saying smile, there's all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's there. So a lot of players might be looking at it, this is my get out of jail free card. And people might say players don't do that, but I think you go back to when we got relegated, we thought a couple of players threw the towel in who had relegation release clauses there as well. So, and then from Spurs' perspective, they haven't been right for a long time. Now they've gotten to Europe and they've won the European trophy, but it has been said for a long time, there's something just not right at Spurs, whether it's the manager. You don't go through the quality of managers that they've gone through over the years and not have success and then think, well, it's the manager's fault. Because at some point, there's a common denominator in there somewhere. And I've always thought it was the dressing room. Even though there's different players and now culture can pass on from group to group. So you look at the two of them, and volatility is the word that I would use, and it doesn't work. It doesn't keep you in the league.
No, it doesn't. And, I mean, could you imagine if we had Cellino in charge and we'd come up to the Premier League? Can you imagine what that would have been like?
Chaos.
Like, genuinely, can you imagine what that would have been like? Everybody would have been sniffing coke in the toilets with him. But
allegedly.
Jesus Christ. Or cameras in the toilets, allegedly. So it doesn't, because you then buying players and giving them ridiculous contracts to try and dig you out of a hole that you're in. You've got managers that are coming in that'll go, well, I want to make sure that I've got some sort of release clause, so if we do go down, then it's not going to be my fault. Do I really need to, I'm going to get paid an exorbitant amount of money for the next 3-4 months just to do a bit of a job. And you're asking players from the continent to come into teams, and it's not me having to go at players on the continent. It isn't. But
they do well. Ours have done okay.
But this is what I'm going to get to. You have some players that will come in from the continent that don't quite get the eccentricities of the clubs that they're going to, because there's nobody that's teaching them it. There's nobody that's telling them about it. There's no leaders within the squad that are giving them that information.
No Stan Byram, no Alex Kearns. Exactly. This is what it's like to be Leeds.
Yeah, you've got
for example, is Luca at Forest for me.
Yeah,
in this case.
Yeah.
Because he'll just be like, do you know, on Friday night, Luca will have been like, what the hell is going on here? This is,
and he's on loan with an option, so he might just go, yeah,
done, fine, just leave it as it is. And then, you've got our players that have come in. Okafor gets it, Statch gets it, Beal gets it as well, Bornau gets it. You can tell Justin gets it. That all of the players that have come in, they all get it. And that's not me going, again, we're better, but there's that identity. And that's a lot of what this is. It's the identity and the culture that these players might not be used to, having to dig in and having to do the hard yards and the dirty work, and might not necessarily be as technical as what you think they are. You look at Bruno Guimaraes at Newcastle. The Newcastle fans love him. He's going to leave at some point, but the Newcastle fans love him because he puts the hard yards in. He does the dirty work. He does everything that goes with it, and he gets the ethos of Newcastle. He understands it.
There is a manager part to that, though, as well.
Oh,
though.
no, of course.
If you look at this, because again, whether people like Daniel Farke or not, he's been there for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
He understands what Leeds fans expect. He's had to deal with the good and the bad from the fans. He's had to deal with the praise and the criticism from the fan base. So he understands the levels there is to that. So any player he's bringing in, he talks about the character of players and having the right characters in the dressing room. So he knows fundamentally there's a certain type of person that I have to bring in here, or else it just won't. And not all of them have worked. Lucas Perry is probably struggling under that right now with the expectation there, because you can see it in his performances. There's an edginess there that wasn't there when he was at Lyon. So there is a manager element to that. And Eddie Howe at Newcastle has been there for a while as well. So he has that.
He does. And the other side of it is, and I mentioned it on X today, I just put, how is it that that Leeds United have turned out to be the sensible ones in the room of this conversation of relegation? I don't quite understand. And a very, very surprising, because it's X, there's an overwhelming majority of people that just put Daniel Farke.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, him, because he's doing an amazing job for me, because I've never been shy to say that for me, the squad has gaps that haven't been filled. So a lot of that goes down to the manager adapting at some point and doing an amazing management job in the end, because they look like a group. They are a group. You can see that, how they stand up for each other on the pitch. How even when we have injuries, I'm not a supporter of that consistently in football, to be fair, of players filling a position they are not naturals in. But you can see the commitment, the togetherness, the tightness when Justin moves to a centre-back position or moves out of position. Even in the Africa Cup. Yeah, he's Dallas in the making. Even Gruev, he's always played before Leeds, when he was in Germany at Werder Bremen as a pivot, stuck to the willingness of these players to try to adapt in the position. It's not guaranteed, because there's many players like Okafor, when he arrived, he basically wants to play in that position, but he never made a mystery in Italy that he didn't want to play in the way AC Milan were utilizing him. I still think he's better in central position, in central areas. He's more effective for me, but at least now on the wing, he still struggles for me in the 1v1. He still doesn't have that edge, but at least he's pressing, and that's what we need for him. That's sacrifice. That's like I know I'm not working consistent in that position. Like I know I'm like the level I know I can reach, but at least I'm gonna give this team a different thing that they know they need. And the willingness by every player is completely you can see that when you watch the team. Absolutely. We had that graphic, when we see the teams, the managers, the comparisons, we made the manager comparisons. I think there's also another thing. If we look at these crests, these badges, these logos, I'm using all the English dictionary to while I wait for Jared to do what to do that. But yeah, if we look at these clubs, you can also make another comparison. Like starting with us, 49ers, we know that they are sensible, they are conservative, I would say, in terms of spending, but at least they have a clear plan. They know what they want to do. They are willing to take unnecessary risk for me, but at least they know the sensibleness. Yeah, there we have a big Sean Dyche. But also, if you look at the other clubs, Forest fans, many of them are not happy about Marinakis. West Ham fans, they are not happy about David Solino ownership. Open disruption, open discontent. Yeah, that's the word. Discontent about the ownership. Palace, Steve Parish, I think, has done an amazing job. I think it's unfair to criticize him, but there's a lot of people criticizing him. I think it's unfair, and it's a sign of short memory, honestly. But about Henrik at Spurs fans that criticized their ownership for a very long time. I think the capital mistake that started the chain of events that led to them being involved in this relegation battle was the sacking of Mauricio Pochettino in the end.
Yep.
After the season after they reached the UCL final. Then they got Mourinho, got Conte. Every one of them, Postecoglou to today, are saying that they don't have the culture. Every time the manager pays, but they don't have the culture. Every time the problems, the issues remain the same. So we can do also the comparison in terms of stationary, being clear, and being consistent with a clear vision and plan, because West Ham, especially West Ham, Forest, Palace, and Spurs, all of these clubs have the fans with this content with outings or done at their clubs, you know.
There's an important thing to note into all of this as well that we've talked about, and we've talked a lot about character tonight and how that can mean more than the actual quality of the player that you buy in. Just to go through it, the starting lineup against Nottingham Forest, for argument's sake, because it's a good one to put out there. Darlow, 500,000. Justin, 8 million. Rodon, 10 million. Strout, 3 technically. Bogle, 5 million. Ampadu, 7 million. Gruev, 5 million. Goodmanson, 10 million. Aronson, the most expensive player at 25 million. Okafor, next at 18 million. And Calvert-Lewin, 3. Now, a lot of people will argue about that. Oh, he's getting paid wages. That's not the point. It's your initial outlay for the player. You look at that in terms
Sorry, you can't complain about doing it on the cheap and then turn around and say, well, he's getting paid wages. One pick a lane. Yeah,
exactly. So here's the point that I'm trying to make of that is that the overall outcome or the overall being is greater than the sum of its parts, just purely on character alone and the fight and the determination that the players are actually showing. Sometimes you don't have to go out and spend 60, 70, 80 million quid on a single player. Sometimes it's not just the skill and ability of a player. Sometimes it's the actual presence of a player and what the value of the value of person.
I used to do this when I trained in Microsoft. I used to sell premium products, and I used to say to people, value doesn't mean cheap, because people value their children, and people have kids will know kids ain't cheap. So it's what you get from it. It's the value it has to you, what it brings to you, what it gives to your life, what it improves around you. It's the same with a football team. A player is worth whatever amount of money, but the value of that player is what he brings to you and what you get from him. So it's not always about chucking a ton of money at it, because we've seen in the past, John Kevin Augustin, you know, you can throw a ton of money at something and it just bounces off the wall and hits you in the face. You know, sometimes it's not about that. And sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. Someone's going to scream and frantically typing in the keyboard of it. They're doing it on the cheap. Just spend some money. But yeah, sometimes it is about upgrading that. And there's going to be a point where Leeds are going to have to move into a bracket where they are spending more money on individual players. That is going to happen. But in the meantime, it's about getting the right characters, the right type of players in, and building a squad with a backbone, rather. I don't mean a spine of a team. I mean a backbone of players who can handle pressure and handle the weight of being in a side that is very self-aware of itself and knows it will be struggling. I mean, and I'm not going to sugarcoat my past. Daniel Farke, for me, earlier this season, deserved criticism, and he got criticism because of what he was doing. He changed it. He showed self-awareness and he showed growth. And on the back of that, he's made the changes that were needed to be made, and Leeds have reaped the rewards of that. He's grown in that role as well. Paul mentioned Ampadu earlier on. He's grown in that role as well. Over the last season, I just think Ethan Ampadu has just grown more and more and more every single week. Jayden Bogle, who's on the screen there as the man of the match for last week, he's grown as well. Like, all of a sudden, we're starting to see the Jayden Bogle we saw in the Championship making those runs forward. I thought it was interesting, though, also this week, they pointed out that Daniel Farke's gamble of playing Bogle as an inside winger paid off. It didn't pay off. It paid off when he put him back to right wing back. Then it paid off. Then all of a sudden we saw him making the runs that he made. So it's about getting a team that will try and help you achieve the goals that you need to achieve. And that's relative to the goals that you set. If you look on screen there, by the way, these are the Finalysis ratings for the Leeds side for the game against Chelsea. They're not particularly high because we weren't particularly great. Finalysis is great for this, by the way. Finalysis is a fan app. So what you can do is you download Finalysis, you can actually rate and put comments on all the players for your team every single game. And then the final scores that come out usually a day after the game that we share on our Instagram page are 100% voted for by the fans. So it's a pure, and Leeds fans can only vote on Leeds. Manchester United fans can only vote on Manchester United. Spurs fans can only vote on Spurs. You're within your own little bubble. So it gives you a good indication of that. Jayden Bogle was the man of the match in that game for Leeds. But Leeds, Paul, right now, to get back onto Leeds, to all these points that we've just made, are achieving what they set out to achieve this season. The job is not done. There are still 12 games left. We could absolutely shit the bed, touch wood. We don't. But it is still very much in our hands. And while that chaos is going on, Leeds is still picking up points. And we looked at these 3 games between Chelsea, Manchester City, and Aston Villa and thought we might be lucky to get anything from these. We've already got a point. Yep. And some of the comments from people this week have been, that's a point more than I thought we'd get.
100%.
So, but there's an air around this side of just not giving up. Daniel Farke said, never say die. But it's there. How many times have we gone behind this year and come back and got something from a game?
Huge loads. I mean, when you look at it conversely, West Ham have lost 15 points from winning positions by conceding right at the very, very end. So it's you go into like the 3 games that we've got left out of this little grouping of 4 that we've got. So we've got Aston Villa away, who aren't firing on all cylinders at this moment in time. We've got Manchester City at home, and then we've got Sunderland at home as well. So you're looking at those going realistically. I mean, I said that 4 points out of those 4 games would make me extremely happy. 5
I'm thinking could we get 4 from the next 3?
Well, exactly. But you look at that and go, 5 points would be absolutely nuts. But it's just, I've got a team at this moment in time that I believe in, that when we go up, and yes, we might all whinge about lineups. Yes, we might whinge about the players that are putting in. Why isn't he not playing this player when he's playing this player? But I still look at the squad and go, we can match up with absolutely anybody. The only team that we haven't been able to match up against this season is Arsenal. And 50% of the blame for that lies on Farke trying to be a little bit too clever in what he's been trying to do, rather than just doing what he knows that works or what has worked. So we can match up against any team. We can be in and around it and make it very, very difficult. So I mean, look at it this way. If we went to Villa and we win, that makes City a free hit. It's City then turns into a free hit. But I mean, what would you like?
A respectful free hit.
Yeah, a respectful free hit.
I don't believe in free hits, but yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? If we lose, it wouldn't be the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, we could be looking at this and potentially walking away from the next 3 games. Potentially, I say this, and it's not beyond the realms of possibility of getting 7 points. We could win at Aston Villa away. We could beat Sunderland at home, and we could draw to Manchester City at home as well. There is a chance that could happen.
I would be very happy with 3 points from the next. Sorry. 4 points in the next 3 games.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, I would as well. But what I'm saying is that we're looking at games now and going, there's chances where if we play to our strengths and what we do, we have an opportunity. I'm not going to be one of these silly big-headed people that sit online going, this is what we're going to do. But what I'm saying is that we now have a team that we all believe in, that can put an effort in and could potentially cause a little bit of an upset. So it's that, and that's a nice position to be in. And psychologically, the fact that we're sat in 15th now, as opposed to 16th, psychologically for us as fans and for the players as well, when they're looking at that, the difference that makes is huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Andrea, real quick before we wrap up, we'll try and wrap up the next minute or 2. Paul knows I start getting edgy when it starts getting towards the 50-minute mark. We've got a FA Cup game at the weekend, so we're likely to see some changes. What do you expect to see from Leeds away at Birmingham City this weekend? And what's a realistic goal from this? Do you care about the FA Cup run? I don't. Respectful to the FA Cup. When we're better, we can have a crack at it. But right now, I want to stay in the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with the fact that the league absolutely should be prioritized. So I expect a similar formation to the one that we've seen at Derby. Of course, I expect players that are playing less to be involved. Honestly, of course, it's a game probably that people care more about in the US compared to the UK, because of course, there's the story behind Tom Brady against the 49ers. I don't know if he's gonna be there, but because
don't care.
He's been doing podcasts with Logan Paul these days, and yeah, it was at the Super Bowl too. But Yeah, Birmingham are a team that have spent a lot, of course, last summer, but they haven't been following the right example for me, because on the other hand, there's two type of ownerships, down there in the Championship that have risen from League One this season, and I'm talking about, of course, Wrexham and Birmingham. But Birmingham are in good run of form, but in the end, the one that spent sensibly for me was Wrexham, and they have always been, because they've done things in a similar way to how we do things. McElhenney and Reynolds. They've been conservative. They've been pragmatic in the spending. As soon as they jumped the levels,
incremental increases on their levels.
Yeah, they have risen through the pyramid, but also attracted investors, minority investors. Birmingham have started to splash the cash as soon as the new ownership with Wagner, who unfortunately suffered a stroke. Apparently, is good, but he's going to step back by the day-to-day running of the club. So I don't know who's going to be in charge there too at Birmingham. But looking at us, of course, they're in a good run of form. It's going to be a big day for them. Try to do an FA Cup run, of course, because if you look at the table in the Championship, they have 1 point behind sixth place, of course, with Wrexham. So they are still involved in the run for the playoffs. But on our side, I think Nyonto, James, Tanaka, Longstaff, the players that have been less involved recently need to play in this game, because, of course, the focus is on the league. The focus is on staying up. It also can be a good game to play Perry, this one. Because, of course, if you don't play him in the cup now, when are you going to play him? Of course, Darlow is the starting goalkeeper right now. He's going to be probably till the end of the season. Then we'll see. I've been more comfortable with Darlow in goal than Perry. They need to protect their investment, so you need to showcase Perry if you're looking to sell him in the summer. So this is the proper game to play him. We'll see if some of the players that were injured also, because another thing that went under the line for me with the Chelsea game is that we weren't great. Absolutely. We were set up not in a good way for me. We need to be set up in a similar way compared to the Forest game, but decided to be like, it was effectively a 5-4-1 in the end, if you look at that. Then it changed when Bornau went with the eyes on the bench and put Okafor in. It was more similar to what we had seen with Forest, and we adjusted the game, seizing the only two opportunities that we had, basically, on that, the two concrete opportunities. Then we went back on defense, to defend the point, because we knew how much it mattered, because we were without Strauch, without DCL, without Stack. We had other players that had just returned from injury. No, there's like Longstaff. He's not 100% still in terms of fitness. They need time. These players, James returned recently. So yeah, it's a good time, this game, to give a chance and opportunity to other players that need to play more, want to play more, to prove their case, like it was a derby, especially Tanaka. Tanaka will be eager to play probably, because these players will still play a part for me, because Farke has always proved that even Justin wasn't playing at the start, Bornau. Eventually, when their moment came, even Aronson, Farke tailored the role for them. Even Grujev, with Okafor and Aronson against Forest, pressing high, keeping us high in terms of balance. Grujev was more unmarked compared to other games, and he was capable of progressing unmarked off the ball and getting good positioning. He didn't have a lot of ball carrying, but in terms of touches, when the ball got to him, he was always in the right position. 1-2 pass. So that's Farke for me. These are tactical signs that Farke is working with them. But yeah, this game, absolutely agree with you too. We need to prioritize the league. So I'm intrigued to see how these players will react if they are given an opportunity.
Paul, very briefly, in like 60 seconds. It's important to keep these lads fit as well, because they will need to play a part at some point between now and the end of the season.
Is that brief enough?
That's pretty brief. Yeah.
He needs to keep them. He does need to keep them fit in terms of match fitness. The guys that are on the fringes at the moment will get their opportunity against Birmingham, and who know if they do something. Who knows? They might even then get the opportunity to then go into the starting lineup. I trust any of the players to come into the starting lineup, in all honesty. So, and that's the main thing. But I think the ones that haven't played as much will be the ones that start against Birmingham.
Folks, thanks very much for joining us tonight. Mass thanks to Paul Brooker from the Leeds Therapy. His details are down below. Andrea Russo, who contributes to the Unfiltered Football cast over on Lockie Leeds. His details are down below as well. We'll be back tomorrow morning with the news. I will have a news out tomorrow morning. Deathbed or not, I will have one out and being dramatic. But yeah, we'll have the news out in the morning. But yeah, outside of that, mind yourselves, enjoy your evening. Thanks for watching us. We'll talk to you soon. See you later. Bye.